The South African Social Security Agency says it's struggling with fraud related to old age and disability grants. Millions are being paid out monthly due to people wrongfully claiming benefits when they're not entitled to the government assistance. Let's speak now, try once more, to speak to the Social Development Portfolio Committee member and DAMP, Bridget Masango. As I was asking you earlier, ma'am, for your assessment of SASSA's ability to prevent fraud in the system, do you think they're doing a good job?
I do not think that they're doing a good job, Tembegile, because all the controls that are there are the controls that are reactive. In fact, even the Auditor General highlighted this point in their presentation to the Portfolio Committee yesterday, that there needs to be effort put into making sure that these instances of fraud are prevented, other than having to now do investigations and try to recover monies and report things to government public bodies such as your SAPs and your investigative units and things like that. So my assessment says that whilst work is being done in reducing the number of these instances, but that reduction is as a result of reactive reactive actions in terms of fraud. So we would like to take SASSA back to when, as the Democratic Alliance, for example, we were saying that the biometric access has to come back into the system, because that is known, even according to SASSA themselves, biometric access would actually prevent fraud, which would lead to money, millions of rands being siphoned out of the SASSA, which is the public coffers, as it were.
You've already mentioned biometrics. SASSA said yesterday in that briefing with the Portfolio Committee that efforts are afoot now to work on a fraud detection system. How far-reaching do you think the controls would need to be that they put in place now? Because let's face it, with any other system, as the system improves, the criminals become smarter.
Yeah, well, actually, biometric access was very helpful even in the past, before it was, because biometric access was there in the SASSA system, but it was discontinued, especially after the previous service provider who was paying grants on behalf of SASSA left the system. That is when biometrics was discontinued. How I know that it would go very far to prevent fraudulent activities is because there is biometric access both for the beneficiaries, but also for employees. So it's easy to detect who was in the system, to process what transaction, so that it can be detected. And I mean, if the employees know that they when they access the system, they use biometrics, they would be very reluctant, if at all, to actually try and process fraudulent transactions on the system.
So there was seemingly, and I don't know if you'll agree, a glimmer of hope in the presentation yesterday by the SASSA leadership, saying that they were able to detect, I think, 16 million people who were applying for the special grant, who had already been either benefiting from another type of grant or had alternative income. Does that give you some hope then that they are trying to stop this?
It does indeed, Tembegile, because that has prevented, as you say, over 16 million would be ineligible grant recipients. So that is a glimmer of hope in that regard. But we need to know that this is, as far as the SD grant is concerned, not the other mainstream grants. So we commend this. And we actually would say to SASSA that they've done very well in this regard. But we need to make sure that the grants that are in payment throughout, that are not just for the social relief distress, are also prevented. And the way that we believe that prevention will happen is if they, among other detecting instruments, they bring back the biometric access.
Right. But also, would you agree with the assessment that SASSA's controls, however improved they may be in the next year, the next 5 years, will only be as good, as effective as it has an entire staff complement that has the integrity to not collude with criminals, because that also remains a problem?
Oh, yes, most definitely. And we heard yesterday from SASSA's management when they were doing the presentation that they are dealing with what I believe they called the business improvement sort of program, where they were even saying that some of that training or of that improvement process would have to do with the culture of the people that are in the front line, where the grants are being processed, and management, everybody in the ecosystem of SASSA was going to be or is being subjected to this training. So we do have hope, but we're saying it has to be done as quickly as possible, because the system cannot afford to lose so much money. As you would have maybe seen in the presentation, SASSA has only been able to recoup 56 million rand. We do not know how much is out there. As they do in this investigation and as they recover the money from those people that they can recover from, we're talking 56 million rand that would have gone to the poor and vulnerable of this country.
Bridget Masango, DA MP and member of the Social Development Portfolio Committee, thank you for your time tonight, ma'am.